Hey, Fanboy Nation.
This is your pal Daffy Duck, and you're watching.
We're watching Fanboy.
A fanboy, etc.
Fanboy Nation.
Dot, I assume Tom.
This man and I became fast friends with his last film, Automation, and it's always a fun time chatting with him, especially since we're talking about his latest film, Space Wars: Quest for the Deepstar. Garo Setian, how are you today?
Hello, how are you? Good to see you, RC.
Listen, it's great to see you. I'm thrilled that we get to talk today. It's been a while. We talked last week, but prior to that, it's been, the pandemic didn't help much. So
yeah.
At least we get to chat again.
Yeah, no, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, the movie is being released in limited theaters on April 21st. It's going to have a screening at the Frida April 22nd here in Orange County, and then comes to digital on May 2nd, just in time for my birthday, after having a stint at the Miami International Science Fiction Film Festival. You're all over the place.
Yeah, and we're screening in Beverly Hills, starting on the 21st, in Palm Springs, and then next week we're screening at the Galaxy Boulevard Mall Theater in Las Vegas. We're there all week. We got lots of show times, so it's exciting. We're even going to be in a drive-in in Pennsylvania, and we just got a call about another theater, another drive-in that wants it. So we're getting out there. The Fallon Theater in Nevada. I mean, it's exciting. Here I am. I'm like sending posters to different theaters and sending the DCP out and all that. It's been very, very grassroots, but people seem to like what they see. I send them the trailer and they're just like, okay, we'll do it. So
well, I don't know if you heard the terrible news this morning in that Lionsgate has greenlit a Twilight series because the 18 movies wasn't enough. And that there's no original IP being made. So I am thrilled that Space Wars, an original IP, is getting eyes.
Thank you. I mean, it's funny. That was sort of, look, I love Star Wars. I love, all these IPs that we, all have grown to love, Star Trek and everything. But it does sometimes feel like, okay, well, is there anything else? And when Star Wars came out, after that movie, there were all sorts of other, they would call them ripoffs, but again, they were no more a ripoff than, The Searchers is a ripoff of Red River. I mean, it's like, okay, it's another movie with cowboys and guns. You know what I mean? Does that mean it's a ripoff, or is it, there's people riding horses in both movies? Does that mean it's a ripoff? I mean, spaceships, laser guns, fist fights, those are common things in pulp sci-fi adventure. And, in the aftermath of Star Wars, we had Battle Beyond the Stars and Star Crash and Space Hunter, Adventures in the Forbidden Zone, Metal Storm, The Destruction of Jared Sin, all these other space operas. And you tend to think there's a lot of these movies, but there really isn't. There's really not that many. No one really does the space opera unless it's, again, an established brand already. So yeah, we set out to make a completely just its own thing. It's definitely inspired by all those movies I just mentioned. There's all sorts of little, references to those movies throughout, but we really wanted it to be its own thing, our own universe, and just take audiences on a wild ride to some unexplored terrain that they haven't been to before.
It's interesting that you mentioned Star Wars because everyone tends to forget the movie that just came out before it that was part of the old guard of sci-fi, which was Logan's Run.
I liked Logan's Run.
That was the old guard of sci-fi, and then Star Wars created the new guard. And so it's two totally different ideologies, dystopian and then hope. It's not even utopian.
Yeah.
And that, there's still hope in the sci-fi that you've made with this film. And it doesn't hurt that Michael Pare is in here. And even in his delivery, when he's being the straight guy, he's still cracking wise that makes it just humorous enough that you have to pause the film to make sure you don't miss the next line.
Yeah. He was so awesome to work with. I cannot say enough good things about Michael Pare. Total professional. And the thing is, he totally got it. And he loves science fiction. I mean, when I met with him at a coffee shop, and he was there with the script, and he had notes all over the script. He was just excited and passionate to be a part of this kind of storyline, because this is where his heart is. You know, he grew up on, you know, Star Trek and things like that. So he loved it. And for me, it was a huge pleasure because, you know, I remember the Philadelphia Experiment and Moon 44 and Streets of Fire. So, you know, this is a guy who's sort of been in my life, you know, in as a kid where I'd watch these movies and, you know, a teenager, and now here we are working together, you know, and it was incredible, you know, and he put so much emotion into it. It was just, there were some really wonderful scenes in it.
You know, the thing what I love about, you know, Michael and then Eric Roberts as well is that they just love to perform. You know, whether it's a mega blockbuster film or it's an independent film, they're just there to perform. They are true actors in the sense of the word. And it's not like, which is going to elevate my career, which is going to do this for me, which is going to get me nominated for something. They've had that career, so it doesn't matter at this point what they do. And it's great to see how that works out, because when you have Michael in your film in Space Wars, he's just so good that oftentimes you forget there are other people in the scene, which is really sad to say when you have a gorgeous cast, especially when Sarah French is playing his daughter.
Yeah, she was magnificent. I mean, that she's really where this film began, because we worked with her in automation. My wife and I really liked working with her. She, you know, always a pro, always just 100% on, you know, always knows her lines, and is just, you know, if she has to wait around, no complaining. She's so good and so professional. And you know, it was during COVID, my wife and I were sort of sitting around like, okay, what are we going to do now? You know, and Sarah was posting all these like workout videos where she'd be flipping tires and doing military style workouts with Tyler Gallant, who's also in this movie. And we just started thinking, maybe, what if we made her an action hero? You know, like we kind of started there and did a sort of space adventure. And I met with her, and she was really, you know, excited about that possibility. And I knew Joe, her boyfriend, is a wonderful writer. And I know they were both doing some films with Marcel Waltz, who's another really good filmmaker. And I really liked, I could see they had a good dynamic and a good working relationship. And I kind of wanted that sort of situation, you know, and so it just worked out. I mean, Joe was excited to work with me, and we developed a story, and then Joe wrote a fantastic script, and we knew going in we were going to get Pare for the, you know, Kip. We knew we were going to get Sarah to play the daughter, and we knew my wife was going to play Jackie. And Joe wrote those characters specifically for all of these cast members.
I'm going to tell you a theory I have regarding your wife, Anahit. I am convinced she had a huge say in costuming, because everybody else is in leather. Jed is in a bear suit, and your wife sits there and goes, "No, I just want a hoodie and a nice bomber jacket."
She did pick out her outfit. We also, a lot of the accoutrements were courtesy of Joanna Heckman, our wonderful costume designer. Joanna really went above and beyond on this. I mean, again, this was a pretty low budget movie, but we spent considerable time working together. She'd do drawings of the characters and what the looks would be. And I'd say, you know, I want it to be more like this or less like that. And we would eventually find things. And speaking of Anahit, guess what? She's walking in the door right now. Anahit, come over here and say hi to RC. We're doing a little interview here.
Hi, Anahit. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm great. I was just talking about you in saying that you pulled rank as the director's wife in setting up your own comfortable costume for the film. Because, like I said, Jed is in a bear suit. Everybody else is in leather. Somebody's got an eye patch, and you're like, nope, sweater and a bomber jacket.
I wanted to make sure I was free to move around, you know? and because it was my clothing, I felt more comfortable in it. And that was important.
Well, good. That makes it more fun.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you never interrupt.
Groceries. Enjoy.
All right.
Family's got to eat.
Yep. Hey, we've been doing this in between our normal life, so.
Yeah. But it is your normal life. You're a filmmaker. Your wife has produced films for a while, going back to Pomegranate. You know, you guys are doing all sorts of stuff. Automation, you know, really got you recognized that you were able to pull off a fun film with virtually no money at the time. And now you have a little bit bigger budget with this one, so it keeps growing for you.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, hopefully the next one can be bigger. We've got some good plans on the horizon, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Sci-fi has been a genre since the beginning of cinema. And even if you look at the original 1916, 1919, what was it? Frankenstein short. And, and the evolution from that all the way to where we are today. And thank God for digital, because if we were still shooting on film, production would possibly be a nightmare for most independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
How much of an advantage has it been with technology becoming so efficient? And yeah, I don't want to use this word in a negative context, but because it's actually helped quite a few independent filmmakers. Cost effective is a better word than what I was going to use. And become cost effective to create a film like this that 15 years ago would have been a $10 million picture.
Right. Yeah, you can definitely do more with less than you used to. I mean, that's for sure. But, there's still certain areas where, things would cost money that normally, like for instance, like I was looking at some older Roger Corman movies last night, something called what was it? Crime City or something. And, look, while they didn't have all the big flashy special effects that this movie had, I mean, we got spaceships, we got monsters, we've got, journeys to other planets and explosions and laser guns and stuff. Now, this other movie didn't have any of those things, but I'm sure their budget was considerably more. They had more extras. They had, very elaborate lighting setups and stuff, and they were shot on film. And that takes forever to light and set up. And, I mean, it still takes time to light digital. You want to make that look as pretty as you can, but it's just everything, can be done with a smaller crew now. Again, it helps to have more, like we had a little bit more of a crew on this one where automation, we didn't have a focus puller, for instance. This film we did. So I was able to get a few more just designed sort of shots where, someone might be out of focus and then turn into the frame and be in focus, and just a little more dynamic range of things. And it's, of course, special effects. I mean, it's become much less expensive to do them. But it's not super cheap. I mean, it's like buying a very expensive car. You know what I mean? You're still going to have to pay for them. And people deserve to be compensated for their time. And, I was blessed with incredible visual effects artists. We had over 592 effect shots in this movie. And, a lot of it was just comping windows for space or computer screens and things. So, I had these two guys in England, Stephen Clark and Paul Knott, do all the main sort of flashy effects of monsters and spaceships and, all of that, the laser guns and things. And then I had a series of other effects artists, Gary Jones, who's a wonderful filmmaker, and Adam Lima and Perry Horovis, and they would do a lot of the comping of the windows and put stars there or the planet behind them in scenes and stuff. So, but anyway, I'm sorry if I'm diverting, but I mean, I'm just basically saying all of this stuff has become far more cost effective than it would have been, 5-10 years ago. But still, undertaking a sort of space epic of this proportions on the budget that we were working on is kind of a insane thing to do.
I mean, to put it in perspective, 20 years ago, this would have been the price of a Bentley. Today, it's the price of a Mercedes E-Class.
Probably, yeah.
Still pricey, but it's it's more affordable at this point. Is the way we're
it's definitely more affordable. I mean, and again, we shot it quickly. That's another thing. Digital allows you that. But a lot of the speed in which this film was made is also how it was designed. I mean, me and Joe sat down and we really planned this schedule. And we knew we had my uncle's place is where we shot this in. And we basically had 3 rooms, and we would alternate the sets, like we'd be on one set, then the next day we're on another set while we're rebuilding the other one and turning it into something else. and a lot of parts would be like recycled and reused and repainted and just changed around. So we could create all these different environments, and again, how you light it and how you change it up. But I'd say, you know, I mean, we shot all of our sets in 9 days, and then we did all our exteriors in 2 days, and then there was 1 day of pickups, you know.
So less than 2 weeks to film the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah, we actually had a shorter shooting schedule on this than we did on Automation. And yet this is way more spectacle and stuff.
Yeah. But how does it feel, like the satisfaction of getting a movie done in 13 days and it looks this good on the budget that you had? You know, that's very telling in the level of creativity and efficiency that the entire crew had behind you.
Yeah, we take a lot of pride in it. It was a lot of work, though. I mean, and a lot of time in post. I mean, I spent anywhere between 8 months and a year editing this movie. And it was, you know, just every day I'd wake up, have my coffee, and sit down in front of the movie. And, you know, that's something I was blessed with that a lot of the, you know, other filmmakers might not often have that opportunity, because I was able to take the time to really get it as right as I could. I did not want to leave anything to chance or turn in a half-assed project. I mean, I really wanted this film to look good and be as good as possible. And that's why I had these effects guys. And, you know, yeah, I mean, there'd be the editing process. I'd be working with storyboards first, and then there'd be other scenes where I'd have a whole sequence cut, like the whole climactic space battle. It's just like white text on a black screen. Ship tilts left, ship tilts right, and you're cutting to just people pushing buttons. I mean, there are scenes I cut together that ended up being a little different than what I even originally intended them to be. But most of it was exactly what I wanted. I mean, you know, I would, you know, you got to have a vision in your head for what it is you need so you can get it done as efficiently as possible. And then putting this thing together is like a big jigsaw puzzle, you know, with all the effects.
Well, you pulled off something that most people couldn't have done. It's a family affair. You created the story. Joe helped write it with you.
Joe wrote it. This is Joe's script. Yeah. We worked on the story together, but yeah, you know, all that dialogue, that's him. You know, the guy's a brilliant writer. He was able to really, I think, get the characters down really quick. And, you know, I mean, yeah, like, did you like all those characters? I mean, did they all come across strongly to you? I mean, that was something that we were really, you know.
Yeah, it came across really well. And then Jed being the ultimate villain in it, and he's just over the top crazy. And I think it's because he was sweating the whole time. And the frustration of that is coming in it from a giant bear suit and war paint.
And he had his own special theme music too. You know, did you like the soundtrack? Did you pick up on those themes and stuff?
I like the score. I like the way it flowed together. Everything worked well. You know, if I didn't like the movie, I wouldn't be talking to you about it.
I know.
Yeah.
But you know, it's funny. Not many people, you know, it's like when you do a movie like this, it's kind of hard for people to pick out the individual things and stuff. And like that score, I mean, to me, that what Joel Christian Goffin did, I mean, when we talked, like even before there was a script, I just knew I wanted to make a space movie, and I talked to Joel about it, and he just created it's like, all right, I'm in. And I told him I wanted it to sound like Elmer Bernstein meets like a James Horner Battle Beyond the Stars type thing, you know? And literally, like, you know, like a couple hours later, he sent me this theme. And I was just like, yes. And I would play it like on the set. This is going to be our theme. This is going to be our theme, you know? And then there it is, you know, all these years, you know, it's like 2 years later now. And here we are, you know?
And on top of that, not only did you work with your wife, you worked with Joe, you worked with your son, who was partial editor on the film too. So you kept it all in the family.
Yeah, you know, and that was important because my son's been editing more and more. He actually cuts trailers for my company now. He's done 15 trailers, and they're all really good. You know, actually, yeah, we're going to enter some Golden Trailer Awards and see what happens. But he's naturally gifted in it. He was basically my assistant. He cut a couple scenes, and they came out great. And of course, he played Ezekiel in the movie. And that was sort of just, you know, we were just thinking, okay, let's let him be on the set with us and work with us. And the part suited him. It was like, you know, perfect for his age and what he, you know, I thought he looked all right in the costume and everything. And we just did it. And he had a great time.
And then you film it at your uncle's house, and I'm presuming your aunt was responsible for craft services because, coming from an Armenian family, as I come from an Assyrian family, you don't cook just for 3 people. You cook for 50, expecting everybody to show up.
Yeah, we had a good time. My aunt, now it's funny, my uncle is on my mom's side of the family, which is Greek. So and
same thing. She's gonna feed everybody too.
Yeah. Yeah, no, she's wonderful. We had a wonderful time. And we really couldn't have done it without my uncle. It's kind of sad. I mean, my uncle was really my great uncle, and he was 92 years old. He passed away on Christmas, and what really meant a lot, to me personally, is that because we filmed in his place. I mean, and this took up a lot of space and time, and he offered this to us even after we shot automation at my cousin's place, and it was so disruptive to my cousin, yet my uncle was willing to volunteer his place for this movie. And the beautiful thing is he got to see it. We had a screening at in Las Vegas, an early screening for the cast and crew, and he came to the screening, and he was just blown away. He was just like, isn't that something? He just couldn't believe all the effects and action. I had showed him like previous cuts as we were going, but it was just I was so grateful that he got to see it, on a big screen with a crowd and everything, and he loved it.
And especially to see the guest room and the garage turned into what they were for the film.
Yeah, it was something. That was all, and those sets were built by Anthony Pierce, who's a wonderful production designer, and all those really cool props like the chairs and the guns and the like light up panels. Those were all done by Evil Ted Smith. So and he did fabulous work. I mean, and a friend of mine, Mark Ross, even he contributed. He did some like sci-fi movies in the past of his own, some shorts and stuff, and he just gave me all his props. He's like, here, so he had even more guns and things, and he built like the control for the judge and all this stuff. So it was a team effort. We had a lot of good people working on this, and it was all out of love for what it is.
Everyone wants that Star Wars budget of $300 million and a year and a half to pull off just filming and principal shooting. But how much fun is it to work on the fly when it's 13 days with probably 15-hour days, and then something didn't work and it had to be changed instantaneously, and then somehow it works in the story that doesn't end up on the cutting room floor? Like, what's the satisfaction in that, where it's almost theater?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the editing process is where it all comes together for me. I mean, that's, I'm an editor. That's my background. I mean, even when I'm on the set, as much fun as it is on the set, I'm just thinking, boy, I can't wait to have it all done and I can be sitting down editing it, because shooting is a stressful thing, and but it was, especially on this film, a very fun experience. Everyone was just so committed and happy and upbeat, and even with the long days, even when sometimes a set wasn't ready in time, everyone kind of held their composure. And we did have a lot of little inspired moments, like there was one scene in particular, and this is where, like when I was editing the movie, I realized, there's a lot of intercutting going on because there's lots of different stuff happening. We're building to this climax. And if you remember, Elnora gets caught in the Zentropolis space cloud, in a scene. And in the script, she just shows up later because they said the cloud will like go away and, blah, blah, blah. But I felt like we needed, because I was intercutting between action on the ground with the characters going into a cave and Michael Pare and Anahit and the other ship. I just felt like in order to keep the momentum going, I needed a cut back to Sadie's character. And I was able to just use the footage that I already had shot, and just sort of cut it in a different way, where the cloud goes away. You see the cloud leave and her react, start the buttons and fly off. And it's like a good, exciting sort of continual build of the movie. And yet some of those shots, they were, it was just more footage I had, you know what I mean? It wasn't planned that way, but as an editor, you see the footage and you're like, oh, wait, I can create this moment here, So it was wonderful.
Speaking of Sadie, since she's from Orange County, was she the catalyst to get you to have the screening at the Frida in Santa Ana?
She actually helped get us at the Camelot Theater in Palm Springs. That was one that, yeah. But yeah, she's wonderful. She knows the guys there, and they thought the movie looked like a lot of fun, and that's where it's going to be showing. So
it's definitely the right place to show it, is the Frida in Santa Ana.
Yeah. And she was, yeah. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun. The cast and crew is gonna be down there for that screening, so we're looking forward to that.
You know, I would be remiss in not asking this, but the metaphor of being able to capture somebody's essence and, you know, having them still be a part of you is very much in line with, you know, someone's soul, and using that in sci-fi in the hopes of being able to reconnect with somebody that's passed on. Like, was that an early rendition in the story, or was that something that was developed later on between you and Joe?
That was Joe, because, you know, when we met, I had like a series of sort of action set pieces I wanted to do, and I believe I wanted it to be a father and daughter, you know, because yeah, we knew we were going to have Pare and Sarah. So I had the elements, but we didn't quite figure out what the quest was or what the storyline was going to be. We just knew, you know, again, you know, and I've talked about this before with people, because a lot of people, I don't think, fully get this. Like when you watch Raiders of the Lost Ark, you know, and people think, okay, they said, let's write a story about the Lost Ark or something. That's not how it was done. They basically planned the action scenes. They knew there was going to be a fight on the airplane. Under the airplane. They knew there was going to be, you know, the minecart chase in Temple of Doom was originally developed for Raiders. I mean, they came up with all these cool set pieces to do. It's kind of like when Ray Harryhausen did the Sinbad movies. You know, it's like he started with paintings. You know, it's like we're going to have a giant bird, or we're going to have a one-eyed cyclops, and we're going to have this, and we're going to have that. Then they figure out the story, you know, how they're going to connect all this, you know. And that's really how this film was done. You know, we you know, planned, you know, we knew we wanted certain kinds of spectacle and excitement. And then it was about, let's create a heartfelt story that can grab the audience and take them on this ride. Because ultimately it's about the journey, you know what I mean? And the things you encounter along the way and the confrontations you're having more than anything else. Because that I guess they used to call it, you know, they call it the MacGuffin, right? The thing that's making them do whatever they're going to do. You know, it could be anything. But in this case, Joe latched on to the essence thing. And, you know, sometimes I wonder, and I'll have a longer conversation with him about this. I wonder if he was, you know, reaching into aspects that he was recognizing I was going through at the time, because my mom had just passed away at the time when we were developing this story. So, you know, and then, you know, we ended up doing this kind of story, which was, you know, kind of interesting and, you know, helped, you know, connect me to the material even more. And having heart in stuff, especially if it's like an action movie or a horror movie, you got to have it. I mean, if you don't care about those characters, why even go for the ride? You know what I mean? So, you know, I know I'm talking about spectacle and action and all that, and that's sort of where it begins, but ultimately you need a story where you can care about the characters. I mean, how many times have we seen movies where you just don't care about the people, or they're unlikable, and you're just like, why am I watching? You know, okay, I'm going to wait and watch these people get run through a meat grinder. I mean, that's okay, fun, you know. I mean, it doesn't connect. But I think with this movie and with automation, you know, I really wanted people to care about, you know, the situation the characters were in.
Right. You want to actually like your heroes.
Yeah.
Not just have them there as a one-dimensional thing and then be extremely overpowered. Like Superman in recent years didn't get interesting till he became a father.
Yeah.
Because if he died, he didn't care. He was this all-powerful being. But now that he has something to live for, it becomes even more of a challenge to be Superman.
That's interesting.
And I'm saying this because yesterday was the 85th anniversary of the character. So to see that aspect of it, you actually care about Superman now.
Yeah.
And with this, you care about the essence and wanting to reconnect with a passed on loved one. And then the relationship between the father and daughter and them trying to heal together. There's so much going on. It's not just bang, bang, shoot, shoot, and there's the bad guy, let's go get him.
Yeah, and vulnerability is important. You need characters who are lacking something and need to get to somewhere. You know what I'm saying? If somebody is already perfect and there's no problem, then why are you on the journey with them? I mean, that's kind of the difference between some of the new Star Wars movies and then the original Star Wars movies, you know, having a character longing for even the prequels. I mean, the characters had ambitions and longings, and, you know, there was reasons for things where, you know, I don't feel like that's there in the later sequels that were made, you know, I mean.
You know, I hated the prequels when they came out, but after 7, 8, and 9 were released, I was like, you know what? The prequels aren't that bad.
No, they've grown in popularity over time, and I think people will appreciate them more and more. And you know, again, if you look at those movies, and it is an interesting thing to look at, those Star Wars movies, because, you know, there's 9 of them, right? Or, well, there's a 10, 11 of them or whatever. But when you're talking about those trilogies, let's say, if you look at what George Lucas did with those first 3 movies, each film visually reinvented itself. So, you know, you're on one kind of, you know, you're on a desert planet in the first movie. Second planet, you go into an ice world in this like Dagobah, you know, and then you have an asteroid scene. And then the third film, you know, it's like a forest planet moon. And, you know, they mix it up each time. And especially with the prequels, each one of those prequels introduces new worlds, new places, and incredible set pieces, whether it's the big chariot chase and, you know, in Phantom Menace or in Attack of the Clones, you got that incredible sequence in the arena with all these crazy creatures. I mean, I love that scene, you know, and but then when they got to 9, 10, and 11, and again, if there's people who love them, great. I mean, but I'm just saying, I don't feel like there was anything new in those movies. They just basically took the toys that were left behind and like, okay, we're going to do the Death Star again. And we're going to have these, hey, you remember that X-Wing fighter? Here it is again. Or, you know, it wasn't, I didn't feel like there was anything visually different. Even, you know, you go to, was it The Last Jedi, the one where they had the, you know, it's like a salt planet, but okay, it could have been the snow planet. You know, it's that sort of thing. I mean, you know, and I just feel like maybe the visual genius of George Lucas, you know, I think people don't realize how much they miss it until it's gone. You know, you look at George Lucas and you look at James Cameron, those are 2 guys who I think are so next level in terms of how they think and what they do. There's just not that many people who can do it. It's interesting. I mean, it's just my observation, you know.
I love it. Garo, remind us why we need to go to the theater to watch Space Wars, and then if we can't get to the theater, why we need to watch it at home.
Well, I would say, you know, it is a big screen summer movie adventure. It truly is. You know, yes, we have a smaller budget than, you know, your mainstream Hollywood blockbuster, but I filmed it in a way, and our special effects were done all in a way to make it as big and exciting as possible. We have lots of widescreen vistas, you know, just big screen excitement in this movie. And it's way bigger than you'll expect when you see it. And that was the thing. And I wanted to capture that summertime movie feeling when you go to the theater, you know, you're in for an exciting ride, but you don't know where you're going to go. And here we take you to like 5 different planets, and you see all sorts of spaceships and fist fights. If you like the old Star Trek style fist fights, boy, do we give them to you. So it's just a big screen summer movie. That was what we intended. If you can't see it in a theater, although I recommend you do, if it's not playing around you, it'll be on VOD on May 2nd. So you can order it digitally. And then we have a DVD coming out May 9th. So, and it'll be in Walmart stores. And you could also order it, you know, Best Buy, Border, you know, Barnes and Noble, all these other websites. It'll be available from Amazon too, of course.
Fantastic. Garo, it's always a pleasure chatting with you. Let's not make it, you know, another year and a half before we talk, and then 2 weeks in a row.
Sure.
You know, next time I come up to the Valley, we'll definitely get together and grab lunch or dinner together.
Absolutely. And, you know, if you, you know, I don't have to come on just to promote a movie. If you want me to come on and we can just talk geek stuff, I'm in.
All right. Perfect, man. We'll make it happen.
Okay.
You know, congratulations on everything. Remember, everybody, this movie was shot in 3 rooms in his uncle's house. All right. That's like a bonus point when you see the film and go, really, 3 rooms in his uncle's house? And this is what they gave us? This is incredible. You know, they didn't have to go to London. They didn't have to go to Australia. They didn't have to go to New Zealand. They didn't have to go to Canada to get all these pickup shots. They did it in 3 rooms. That's more impressive.
Yeah. It's that, but believe me, it looks a lot bigger than that.
Garo, thank you so much, man. Oh, where can we find you on social media if we want to connect with you in the film?
Oh, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I'm not very skilled at Instagram these days, but I will follow it. So yeah, reach out to me either way. Facebook's easy, and who knows, I might end up getting a Twitter account soon. So we'll see.
Garo Setian, thank you so much for your time. Please tell Anahit I said hello again, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, RC. Really appreciate it.